Hey everybody, it's Bruce here, and I wanted to take a few minutes here to go back to the module Learning to Think Like a Programmer and go through my peanut butter and jelly sandwich task list, kind of like you put together back in module 1, but this time I want to show you what these 19 steps here will look like in Python to kind of print out the steps just like they are on my Canvas page here. And then after that, I'll group together, and if I go back into modules here and I go back to the grouped peanut butter and jelly sandwich list. Let me see. Grouping, one possible solution. Here it is with grouping. This was my solution for this problem, and I'm going to show you how to do this in Python as well. Now, just know we haven't really learned much Python yet, so here we go. Now, I'm in Visual Studio Code, and I have a file open, and you can see here in my File Explorer on the left. Let me make it a little larger so you can see it. I have a Module 2 folder open, and inside that folder I just have two Python files that I've created. And the extension for a Python program is .py. All right? So in the first program, and I'm going to close the File Explorer so you don't have to see it, you can see that the first 5 lines are some comments that are left for a human to see. That's you and me looking to see that it says, okay, CTEC 121, Bruce L. Gord must be the author, the date that it was created, the name of the file, pbj-1.py, and then a description of what the Python file, the code, the script, is going to do. And essentially, if I scroll down here, these are those 19 steps that you saw here. Oh, not this one, but the original one in Canvas, right? Now, they look a little bit different because in order to get Python to display them on the screen or emit them to the screen, whatever word you want to use, display them, print, whatever, there is a built-in function inside of the Python language called print. And that's what you see on line 7 all the way down. And then you see an opening parenthesis, an opening double quote, a bunch of text, and then on the right side you see a closing quote and a closing parenthesis. Now this is a very basic Python statement. Okay, one line is a statement, and then subsequently, you'll see that I took that print and put it around all of the subsequent steps. So when I go to run this now, I'm going all the way to the upper right. I'm going to click on the play button, and you'll see down here in the terminal that the program ran, and it printed out each line here, each string of characters between the opening and double quotes on a new line. And that's kind of what this print function does for us, quote unquote, out of the box, right? That's what it does. So again, let me just repeat that for you. Here is the program, okay, all 25 lines of it here. And I will click on the play button in the upper right hand corner, and you can see here that it printed out all of the steps, right? So you should try this on your own too, just so you know. And this is the first version of the program. And what I asked you to do for the second part of learning to think like a programmer was to group the steps of making that delicious peanut butter and jelly sandwich together by grouping tasks that would, go together, that you do together as one function that you would perform, right? So if I go back here, you can see that in this particular page here in Canvas, it's called One Possible Solution with Grouping. You can see how I grouped those 19 steps into these groups right here. Now, you'll notice that number 1 and number 6 are just one task that needed to be performed. So since I was only doing that one task, as you'll find out in a moment, I didn't feel that I needed to create a function, okay, to perform those tasks. So let me go into Visual Studio Code and let me open up the second file. And again, it's PBJ-2, and I'll give these files to everyone, and I'll put them in Canvas. Now, this looks a little bit different. So maybe if you go through it a little bit without me saying anything, let me just shrink it down so you can see it here. And what I want you to do, actually, it may be too small. Actually, take a look at this. All right, pause the video. Take a look at this and see if you can figure out what's going on. And again, pause the video. I'll wait right here. I'm not going anywhere. And see if you can, as a person new to programming, see if you can figure out what this program does. All right. So by now, you've gone through this program and you've noticed that we've defined, using the DEF word, we grouped some of those print statements together, right? And then kind of like I did in here where it says gather ingredients, I created this thing called a function in Python. It's something we define as a bit of functionality in our code. And I took those 3 steps, again, here they are right here, and I placed them in this function here. And I did the same for the gathering of the tools that we're going to use. Same thing for prepare the ingredients for use and making the actual sandwich. And then this is kind of where it's all going to come together here, starting on line 41. Now, up until here where it says eat the sandwich, right? This was the start of the program on line number 1 here, and this was the end of the program here. Now, you saw me define all of these various groupings of the tasks that we needed to do. Now, this down on line 41, as I started to state before, this is the main function that's going to, I'll go through it. It's going to first print out, set aside some space on the table or counter to prepare the sandwich. That is this line right here, number 1, all right? The next thing it's going to do is call the gather ingredients function. So what Python is going to do right now, it's going to say, hey, I need to find this thing called gather ingredients. So let's go back up here. And here it is, gather ingredients. So what Python is going to do now is going to print out, it's going to execute lines 9 and print out take out bread. It's going to execute line 10, take out peanut butter. And then it's going to execute line 11, and then the gather ingredients function is done. So it's going to go back down here and then go to the next function on line 44, which is gather tools. It's going to say, that should be defined somewhere. Oh, here it is on line 15. I'm going to perform the tasks, the steps, the statements inside of that function called take out take out a plate from the kitchen cabinet, take out a knife from the kitchen drawer, and then it's going to go back down and go to the next one, prepare ingredients for use. And I'm not going to go through all of these right up here. And then it's going to, I just noticed a bug. I forgot to call the make sandwich function here. In fact, I would have found this out not by just explaining it to you, but if I ran it just like I did now, I'll notice, I would have noticed that we're short a couple. Actually, it went down here. Let me just clear this. Let me run it one more time. Here we go. And you can see that it started right here. And look, some of the steps are missing. So what I need to do after I prepare the ingredients is call the make sandwich function. And then we're going to go up to here and make the sandwich by executing all of these statements, doing all of these steps. And then the last thing that it's going to do is going to print out eat the sandwich, right? Now, this is another grouping that I created. I grouped all of these things together that actually perform the making of the sandwich. These functions alone, right, don't do anything. They're just like definitions, and they're just defined. They're not ran. They're not run. It's only when I put them all together in the order that I want them to execute, like I started to do in this main function right here, that they all will get called. Now, you'll notice on line 51 says, hey, call this thing called main. Okay? So all of these functions, these blocks, right, of code that we wrote are just defined. Defined. And it's only when we get to line 51 that we say, hey, Python, go run main. Go run that function called main. And then we go up to here. We print out this line here. Then we call the gather ingredients function, the gather tools function, the prepare ingredients for use function, the make sandwich function, and then finally the eat sandwich print statement there, and we are done. So I hope this video helped take what we did in Module 1 and start to combine it with kind of some basic things like creating a way for our Python program to print out stuff to the terminal. And then here, a way for us to group those print statements together based upon some functionality that we defined. And then here in our main, our main line logic that runs the entire program, we put it all together, and on line 51, we call it. All right. So if you've watched this video and you want to send me the keywords peanut butter jelly sandwich directly to me on Slack, I can give you some extra credit. Thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, please ask them of me on Slack. Have a great day. Take care.